Hello, everybody. Welcome to guys. What episode number is this?
I think
Four,
it's episode
3, 2.
I kind of thought about starting from scratch. Let's forget the number and just call it whatever. Okay, good start. Right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of the Retro Rumble podcast. I'm here with a couple of my colleagues from cultureofgaming.com. I'm here with Mike and Ethan. How you doing, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Super duper. So we've got lots of news to go through and a good bit of history to go through as well. So should we just plow straight into it? Oh, actually, no. How about tell me what you guys have been up to? What have you been playing? What have you been doing? I had a good weekend last week. I'll get to mine last. No,
Oh yeah?
the weekend prior.
Wow.
But yeah, what did you guys do? Well, it's good for me. It was fun for me. I don't know if it's good podcast content, but it's interesting. I guess it's relevant at least.
Sure. I built my very first computer. I thought that was
cool.
a lot of fun. Yeah. It's a really powerful one. I've been saving for it for about a year and a half, and I thought it was going to be useful for me, but so far I've been using it for nothing but Overwatch. So that's been fun. I know that's not a retro topic, but that's what I've been doing anyway.
No, there's no rules about retro. I'm not going to say like anything. Oh, that's way too modern. I'm going to cut that out or edit that out or something. No, man. My first computer, I remember building mine. It was back when jumpers were still a thing.
Really?
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
The hard drive designating. They were like little bits of plastic with a little tiny piece of metal inside,
That's cool.
and on the back of. Possibly still on modern, I don't think they are, but on the back of old school, I think fairly old school hard drives, they were like these little pins, and you put these jumpers that were basically a little, almost like a black or plastic rather. I don't know how to describe this. Like a. I'm not sure how to describe it, but basically it slots onto two of these pegs, and where they are slotted defines a hard drive as a master hard drive or a backup hard drive or secondary hard drive or something like that.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely don't have that in my computer for sure.
Quite analog, yeah. So if you go back about 15 years, probably I could build a computer now. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about.
That's all I've been doing.
That just shows how technology moves, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that's all I've been doing. But Mike, what have you been doing?
Oh,
what have you been up to?
I've been playing Yakuza 0.
Oh, nice.
I have never played.
I've always wanted to play those games.
Yakuza game, and I thought, what better place to start than Yakuza 0, because it's not the original, but it takes place before the original and it has like the updated like mechanics and things like that. So that's a lot of fun.
Cool. Is that like it's one that cause I love Japan, so for me I look at Yakuza as GTA in Japan. Would that make sense?
It's open world.
Kind of, but the difference between the two is that with GTA it's kind of like a power fantasy where you can basically like blow up anything anytime you want. With Yakuza, you're like, when you're playing as the main character, you're a citizen in this country, you're a citizen in this city, so like outside of like battle situations you're not really able to fight people. But and it's a very character driven game, and so like your character wouldn't just start fights with anybody just for the sake of it.
Right, so it's a bit more realistic, you might say, like The Getaway.
Yeah, but what makes it so great is that it just has like so many side things to do. Like you can go bowling, you can go dancing, you can go do a karaoke thing, you can race slot cards. Like there's so many side stories to take part in, and it's crazy.
Can you play
fully realized?
I love it for the exact reason that I didn't much care for Final Fantasy 15. And it's that all the side stories in Final Fantasy 15 are kind of samey, and in Yakuza 0, or in most of the Yakuza games, from what I hear, there's so many different kinds. Like you never get bored.
Cool. So it's a fully realized living world you can get lost in, then, really.
Absolutely.
I'm all for that. See, I really want to play these games because it's quite a few of them, right? It's about 6, I guess, is it?
There's a lot of spin-offs, but
Okay.
there's the mainline series is Yakuza 0 and then 1 through 6.
Okay. Well, I went to what I've been doing, not this week, but last weekend really. Up until since then, I've not been doing much. But I figured what I did on the last weekend was would be quite interesting and interesting to mention here as well. So I went to an event. I'll be honest with you, I travelled far for this event, and I probably should have looked up the event beforehand, pictures of it and that, a bit more in detail, because it was a lot smaller than I expected. So I did feel like I travelled quite far for something that was not as big as I thought it was going to be, but it was still fun. I spent 11 hours on a coach, there and back, so 22 hours altogether or thereabouts on coach, changing once in Birmingham, and yeah, so it was quite a journey, all the way up to a city called Newcastle, and there was an event called the Northeast Retro Gaming, NERG or NERG, and this is it's a cool event. I just wish it was bigger, really. It is a mixture of consoles, tables of consoles ready to go. So anything from N64 to Commodore 64 to Amstrad CPC to Atari 7800, they were all ready to go. And ColecoVision, you name it, they were all up and running. Next to that then, or around the edge sides, there was stalls selling retro games. But the coolest part of it was one half of the event was dedicated to pinball machines.
Whoa.
And they had the Adams family as well. They had the Adams family pinball machine, and that was a huge nostalgia trip for me, because I remember playing that when I was really young, in a pub, and I would nag my mum for like 20 pence, and I would go off and play that for ages. And I just remember so much about it. And they had like Star Wars and the Metallica pinball machine and stuff like that. But then next to that, they had, of course, arcade machines. And so they had like everything from Galaga, Galaxian, Miss Pac-Man, which I thought was adorably put next to Pac-Man. I don't know if that was intentionally done. Baby Pac-Man next to it would have been fun, but that's a very rare and hard machine to find. A working one, that's for sure. Because Baby Pac-Man combines arcade machines and arcade gaming and pinball. It's really weird. So yeah, it had all sorts. I was playing new Rally X. I was playing Ladybug, and one machine really caught my attention was a vertical shooter called Slap Fight, which is also known as All-Con in other parts of the world. I forget which. I think it's Slap Fight in the US and Japan. I think it was known as All-Con in Europe, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, I spent ages playing that machine, and I completely crushed it.
What do you do in Slap Fight?
Slap Fight is not what you might think. It's basically a vertical shooter.
Oh.
But what I like about it, what I really like about this game, what I find interesting about it is that it's immediately unfriendly and difficult to play. Only because when you start, your ship is drastically underpowered. Your projectiles are just like Xevious. It's a dual two lasers shots that fire about half the length of the screen, so your range is not so great. But the real Achilles heel is that your ship moves incredibly slow, and the enemy projectiles are coming from all angles, and so do they as well. They sneak up on the bottom of the screen and stuff like that. They're quite stealthy, but they fire really quickly, so it's really hard to avoid. And like many shooters, you have the ability to collect power-ups and sort of spend them, if you like, on a variety of different power-ups. But you can keep collecting stars, and they're basically literally stars, and you can then store, save them up to power up for something like a homing missile power-up or something like that. But the first power-up is a speed power-up. So the trick is, for the first 3 stars, you use the speed power-up every time. And then you start focusing on your weapons, because once you've got the speed, you can really maneuver around the screen, and that's what I was doing. Not only that, this machine was a bit out of line. The screen was a bit out of sync, imbalanced, so you couldn't really see the power-ups at the bottom of the screen. So I had to play from memory. So people were going up to this game, realizing that it was terribly difficult, and just walking away. And of course, because I was familiar with it, I went up to the machine, did my thing, and I just destroyed it. There was only one person who managed to get a high score better than me. But by the time I was done, I was like the top 6 high scores and stuff like that. I quadrupled the next highest score when I first played on it and stuff like that. I just became obsessed with them.
Sounds like fun.
It was. So I wouldn't mind going again. My next event's going to be Play Expo in London, which is a genuinely big event.
I'm jealous. Looking forward to that. I'm jealous. I honestly wish I could go to a single expo, but I've just there's nothing to go to in the Midwest of the United States, unfortunately. It kind of stinks. Yeah.
Yeah, those things are so much fun.
I don't go to enough events. I really don't. But Play Expo is probably going to be the biggest one I'll ever go to, and I'm going to get very snap happy at that place.
Great.
Because the Oliver twins are going to be there as well. Do you guys know who the Oliver twins are?
No.
You're American, so I'm going to say no. The Oliver twins created the Dizzy series, or the Dizzy character, and Dizzy's basically an egg with feet and boxing gloves, pretty much, or just gloves. And he's kind of like an icon of British microcomputer gaming. I often refer to him as the Mario of the UK. Because he didn't really do much outside of the UK, really. He was very much a British creation, and they are the creators of the series. And one of the games that I grew up playing was a game called Quick Snacks, which I bought my second copy of at NERG, so I could go to Play Expo and get the Oliver twins to sign it as soon as I can. So that'll be the first time I'll be getting something signed, because I don't know, it's not many things I actually want people to write on, you know. But when I go to Play Expo, do jump on my Instagram, because I've got a good bunch of photos from NERG, but I'll certainly have tons of photos from Play Expo as well. So
great.
And I need to get the Retro Rumble pod in Instagram up and running as well, because I've been primarily focusing on my personal one. So either way, I'm gonna really cover the event. So Ethan, you've been quite busy, right? Been working on a certain article that's probably taken up a ton of your time.
Oh yes, sir. Yeah. Actually, we all have been, except for Mike. But basically, this weekend, probably this upcoming Sunday, we'll be uploading an upload to a Culture of Gaming called the Top 25 Platformers, side-scrolling platformers ever made. Me and David and 8 other people have been assembling this over the past few weeks, and it's been somewhat of a process with lots of lots of fallout, it's basically a battle royale mode. But
we're coming in quite loud there, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
Very loud.
Yeah, sorry about that. We've been that's been a lot of fun, but I think we finally nailed down a list, and we're ready. Kind of.
What the listeners won't know is that, or may not know, is that I'm going to say here that arguably, out of the entirety of Culture of Gaming, given the era of video games that I focus on and my collection in general, I've probably played more 2D platformers than anybody. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that absolutely, but I'm going to say that confidently. I would not be surprised if we could somehow go back in time and track our usage, or even playing rather, or even recently. I would say that I probably have more experience. So as you can imagine, therefore, my opinions are really strong on the subject. So it's really hard for me not to sort of jump in there and grab the list by the neck and start sort of wrestling it around. You know.
Yeah, that's understandable. David's been somewhat of a troublemaker for sure, but I think that we're kind of wrapping the entire list down. People are starting to write articles about it, so hopefully we'll have it out by Sunday. Keep your eyes on the site.
There's the whole debate about Metroidvania games being discluded.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Did it have its own Discord?
Yes, yeah, it does. Yeah, we've been discussing
it. I didn't.
Oh, you're not in that? Oh, well, we'll have to get you in now then if you're not in there.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. Oh, wait a minute. I'll talk to you more about it after the podcast. But anyway, look forward to that.
The list as well on
I'll send it to him. I'll send it to him, don't worry. But
awesome.
yeah, look forward to that. Hopefully coming out this Sunday, so that'll be fun.
And we should it'd be about the time of the next record as well, so that'd be quite interesting. We could probably go over it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll have a chat about that.
I'd
Cool.
love that.
There we go. So we'll jump straight to the news now, shall we? Because we're
Absolutely.
a bit too long. All right, cool. So right, so I'm not sure how I feel about this one because I think it's going to be a bit too kiddie for my liking. So Mega Man is to get an animated TV series titled Mega Man Fully Charged and will air on Cartoon Network later this year. So I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge Mega Man fan. Then again, I don't have much experience.
Audible gasp.
Not that I don't like it. I played a couple. What did I play? Which one was it? It was one of the Game Boy titles, and I played it on Super Game Boy a lot. But I forgot which one it was. Doesn't matter. I think it was one of the Game Boy ones. It doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, so I don't dislike it. I've just not played it enough. So this doesn't particularly interest me. Plus, I think it's going to be a little too. I think it's going to be aimed at kids, which I think is a bit of a misstep in my opinion, because most kids who are like 5, 6, 7, and this would probably be aimed at on Cartoon Network won't know who the hell Mega Man is. I hate to break it
to you, but most of these characters are aimed at kids anyway.
I know, but. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah. You are right. But
that's
so
what I say when people
when
people don't like a new interpretation of Thundercats or a new interpretation of Batman or something like that. Just like it's not really for us anymore.
True.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's bringing the Mega Man kind of IP to a new audience. I'm not the biggest fan of the way that Mega Man himself looks, but his face looks especially off in my opinion. But I mean, aside from that, honestly, I watched the trailer and I'm fine with it. You know, the
art style looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I have faith in it because you guys have heard of the Sonic Boom TV show before, right?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, people have been. The Sonic Boom, the game, is a disaster, but apparently Sonic Boom, the TV show, isn't that bad. It's supposed to be pretty funny and kind of self-aware, makes a lot of jokes about the Sonic series. So I don't know, I have faith in it.
When most people are hating on that just because of the design of the characters, like Knuckles was like 8 feet tall and had like looked like he was a TIE fighter or something, a Muay Thai fighter rather, and Sonic was had like goggles or something.
A bandana.
Yeah, and there was like little tiny kind of petty things really. Although I will say I don't understand why Knuckles needs to be that big. He's meant to be. He's always been the same size as Sonic. Yeah, he's the muscle.
That's the only reason.
Well, if anything, he's just brash. I wouldn't even call him. He's almost like. Do you know when like two people get together and they're so similar they just don't get on? I feel like that's what Sonic and Knuckles are. They're kind of like the same in some ways. They're different animals, but they're both brash. They're both kind of egotistical and a bit cocky. But their first encounter, they are enemies initially, and then they buddy up. But I think because they're so alike, they kind of clash a little bit. So but I think that's that. Yeah, but I don't view Knuckles as the muscle. I just think he's not so much a clone, but just a slightly different take on Sonic himself, really.
He's the Raph of the group.
The point is, I think that Cartoon Network makes really good content, and I have faith.
I haven't watched Cartoon Network for years.
Yeah, Steven Universe and Adventure Time are both really good. So.
I got Netflix. I'm happy with that. I don't. I just don't really watch much regular TV anymore. Everything I watch now is streamed.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. I mean, if I do have the TV on, I do have a TV and I do have a Sky TV box and all that. But if I do put it on, most of the time I just put on the news for like background noise and stuff like that. That's pretty much the only channel I actually watch in real time. You know, all my stuff is like streamed on like my phone or my tablet or stuff like that. So yeah, so Cartoon Network I've just not watched for ages. Not since like the Dexter days, I think probably, and Johnny Bravo and that. Assuming that was on Cartoon Network, I can't remember. Cool. All right, moving on then. So This one, it doesn't really appeal to me all that much because it's not going to come to the UK as far as I can tell. So Super Nintendo World is, for those who don't know, is a theme park that's currently under construction in Japan, and around about the time, due to be completed around about the time of the 2020 Summer Olympics. And when that's done, they plan to then move it over to, or rather relocate it, not relocate it, but create a, I guess you would call it Super Nintendo World US, I guess. I think it's going to be part of...
Universal.
Yeah. It's going to be... I don't think it's going to be like a huge park to itself, is it? It's just going to be like a segment of that.
It's going to be a part of Universal Studios.
And I find it quite funny that shareholders were panicking because they actually thought that because they could... I guess they have a lot of faith in the park, I don't know, because they thought that the park was going to be so good that it was going to be such a distraction that it would stop people from playing the games. And actually, Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto stepped in himself to say, like, if anything, what's going to happen is it's going to create what Nintendo are pretty much all about, like the family of gamers, or gaming for the family. So it's going to be.
I don't know. I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that it's gonna bring together the modern Nintendo gaming kid who's going to have his Switch with the parents who grew up playing Super Mario Bros. 3 and playing on the Super NES and stuff like that, on Game Boy, the OG Game Boy. And this is going to make them want to play games together, and that's what the Switch is kind of about as well, to a certain degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Multiplayer. So that was Shigeru's argument, that it would actually make people want to game together more.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, ever since that Disneyland came out, nobody's wanted to see any Disney movies. They're all going to the amusement park.
That's another place I've never been. I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World or anything like that.
Disney World is absolutely fantastic and magical.
I've heard it's really the only one to. I heard it's the only one to actually go to. Like, 'cause the closest one to myself right now is Disneyland Paris.
Right.
Apparently there's one in Tokyo. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
There's a Disney World everywhere, man.
I live in Florida, and yet I've only been to Disney World like twice. So.
I think when I was a kid, I wasn't really a Disney kid, so I didn't really kind of grow up with it all that much. I grew up with Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had like my Disney films. I had like Bambi and Jungle Book and Robin Hood and stuff like that. But I would never class myself as a Disney kid. I don't think I had any clothes or any T-shirts with Mickey Mouse on it or anything like that. So, but you know, so yeah. Have you guys played a game called Toki?
Unfortunately not. No, I haven't.
I have not.
Toki is a weird little platformer. It's for I'm gonna say part of me wants to say that it's a Mega Drive or Genesis exclusive, but I don't think it is.
Is it the one with the bird?
No, it's with a gorilla, an ape.
Oh.
It's the classic story of guy's in love, he's got his princess or whatever, and not literally a princess, but he's got his love interest, his girlfriend, his wife or whatever, and some evil wizard steals his girlfriend and turns him into a beast of some kind. So in the case of Toki, the hero gets turned into an ape, but he's a spitting ape. Or an ape that can spit, rather, and he spits constant projectiles that look like little spitballs, like little white. I don't know what he's spitting, but he has basically an infinite amount of them, whatever they are. And rather than going the normal way, like most games like this do, where it's an action platformer, where the characters would throw something, he's just constantly spitting. But it's not as gross as it sounds. So he's an ape that's just going through different stages, and it's actually a very hard platformer. It's really weird. It's quite comical and goofy as well. Not a lot of it makes much sense, but it's just one of those. For me, it deserves the tag of a hidden gem. It's great. So what's going to happen is that is going to be made into a. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be re-released. I'm not sure. They might make a new game or a remastered version of it. I kind of doubt it. I think they're just going to port it over to the Switch. So if you do have a Switch and you want some fun little challenging platformer, that's a good game to just waste a little bit of time.
I'm gonna keep my eye out for that,
is,
yeah.
Toki is a good game. It is. It's dumb, but it's dumb in a good way.
Cool.
Okay. So after it's moving on, then. So after it's oh, by the way, that's due to be out in November. So after it's Sonic Toaster, you guys see that?
Yeah.
And this is about Sega's weird products they're testing. I'm just
What
weird
is
stuff.
up with them?
So what they're making a Sonic Toaster, which basically burns Sonic's silhouette into your toast. You got your Sonic Curry, which is literally blue, and it's so full of colouring that it will turn your boo-boo. So it's probably poisonous, I don't know, but it's not actually going to be released in Japan, outside of Japan, unfortunately, guys. And they also come up with 2 scented candles, a Sega Mega Drive or Genesis candle, and one modelled after the Dreamcast, but they're just basically tins. And they've even gone as far as to ask fans what the consoles smell like. And so what they've gone with their next bit of craziness, what they've gone and done with their next bit of craziness is they've teamed up with a company called Susu, and they've created a pair of Sonic-themed tabi socks. So for those who don't know, a tabi sock is a traditional Japanese sock that dates back to the 15th century, and it's most identifying, or it's characterized by the separating of the big toe from the rest of the toes. So if you watched an anime set in Edo-era Japan, you'll see these socks on almost all the characters. There's something particularly, they're very samurai. Let's just say that. But they actually are pretty cool. So if they're sturdy enough and strong enough, I would love a pair just to wear as like a pair of slippers. So they're kind of like a really strong pair of socks, and I think they're going to be red and pink, and they're going to have Sonic's logo and Sonic's face on them. So, yeah. So who knows what they're going to come? What do you think they're going to come up with next? Because like when Star Wars was not slightly off topic, I guess it sounds like I'm going crazy with this, but so when Star Wars first came out, there was Star Wars everything. I think there was things like Star Wars garage doors and stuff like that. So I think Sega are just going crazy with it, so they could come up with anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, have you heard like of all of those Hello Kitty things? There's there's so many Hello Kitty things. There's bath salts. There's even such thing as Hello Kitty tampons.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen something like that.
Like,
that's a little bit disturbing. Yeah.
Why?
There's like literally like anything you can think of, and I think that Sega just wants to do that with Sonic.
Yeah, I think
Like toothbrushes,
Sonic Mania's got some good feedback, so they think let's just get some merch out there real quick. Let's see if we can redo the 90s again and just like make Sonic a major icon again, and so let's just get the merch ready and just start throwing it all out there. So the next item I'm kind of on the market for, even if it is a little bit silly. A publisher called Read Only Memory have completed. I think it was a Kickstarter. I'm not sure, but either way, it's a new pop-up book for Sega fans, especially Sega arcade game fans. It's called Sega Arcade Pop-Up History, set for release in April next year, and it's basically a book, kind of a history book. I would think so, which will feature pop-ups of Sega's most iconic arcade machines like Hang-On, Space Harrier, Thunderblade, Outrun, and Afterburner. So
that's really cool.
Do you know, I just suddenly thought of something. Probably. I just suddenly thought of something. If I was to have children, this is the perfect book, because I would, I would say like, let me tell you a story about a little company called Sega, and I don't know what would be their first. Their first stuff was like really electromechanical machines. So I'm guessing that's not going to be in there, but I don't think
I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Retronauts before, but they're this
Yeah.
really awesome podcast, and they made an entire series on the history of Sega and arcades.
Yeah.
And that was
Really?
really fascinating to listen to. Yeah, they have the big history outside. I mean, you know, people
Yeah,
think
totally.
they think of Sonic, they think of the Genesis or even the Master System. It's like, no, they had a lot going for them in arcade. I mean, just outside of Daytona alone, they
Oh,
had Outrun
absolutely.
and pole position.
Early days. Early
in
days.
fact, It's so
Fun.
funny. It's so funny that you bring this pop-up book up, because earlier when I brought up Yakuza 0, that's a
Right.
Sega game, and one of the many games that you have in there is that you can visit an actual arcade full
Cool.
of Sega arcade games.
Awesome.
And so before I started playing Yakuza 0, I had never played Hang On, I'd never played Space Harrier or Outrun, but now thanks to Yakuza 0, I have played all those games.
That's awesome.
So I suddenly remembered another story that you think of just mentioning there about games within games. Did you even see that story about how like the games that you can play in? Is it Harvest Moon? I want to say Harvest Moon.
Animal Crossing?
Animal Crossing, yes, thank you. So in Animal Crossing,
right.
you can unlock an NES, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And there are a couple of games, but actually it is a fully working emulator.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how this is done, but apparently there's a way. I don't know if it's easy or whether you have to get a bit of get to hacking. I don't know, but if you can put the ROMs onto the memory card, you can play then any NES game in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, Nintendo saw how popular that was, and they stopped putting it in future Animal Crossing games in favor of a Virtual Console instead. So, which ultimately I think was a smart decision because monetize everything. But
Absolutely.
anyway,
So moving on then. Right, so there's a new supposedly unhackable. Sorry, I lost my place once again. A new supposedly unhackable Nintendo Switch to enter retail channels.
I don't believe it.
Because I don't believe it at all. Because they said that about the PS2. I know it's a
Challenge
different company.
accepted.
Exactly, that's all they're doing. They're just basically saying, bring it, aren't they? Really? And I can't imagine it's unhackable. But it looks like they're using some sort of physical protection of some sort. So I'm guessing you have to hack it. You have to take the back off or something like that. I don't know if I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing, but that's supposedly the case. But they said that about because. If you remember the PS1, that was people were hacking that one or chipping it, as it was known, and were then copying games to regular discs so they can be. So basically, the chip was was making the PlayStation skip the copyright sequence or the boot up sequence or something like that. I can't remember. I can't remember how it worked exactly. It was something to do with the boot up sequence anyway. And it was like at that point where the console would identify whether the game it was trying to play was legit, but the chip would basically be a workaround for that. I can't remember the details exactly. So when that happened, they then came out with a PS2, and then they said that this is unhackable. But I mean, I don't think any technology is ever unhackable, is it really? So Sonic the Hedgehog movie has begun filming, so that is finally underway. That's been held back for so many years, so I guess that means that Robotnik is going to be played by Jim Carrey.
Is Paul Rudd still doing? Is Paul Rudd still playing Sonic?
I don't know, but I think that's a good casting. I think I can
That's what
picture
I'd
that
heard.
voice.
That's what I'd heard. It's crazy hearing about these video game movies that are getting these big name actors. First we get Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu, and then Jim Carrey and.
Yeah, what's that about? That's so random.
I know, right? It's awesome though.
So I mean, when I think of Pikachu, I think of a cute voice. So I think surely the voice would be someone with a high-pitched voice. They're probably going to go down like the.
Danny
Have
DeVito.
you played Detective Pikachu?
Is he like really gruff and deep voiced?
Yeah, yeah. He's got a.
Pikachu.
It's crazy.
I suppose. I can't imagine how Ryan Reynolds' voice coming out of Pikachu would sound good. Even if he does like the goofy Deadpool voice, I can't picture it. And they'll have to I don't know, affect the voice somehow or something. But it'll be very, very interesting when it happens anyway. Also, the Sonic movie won't have a subtitle. It won't even be called Sonic the Hedgehog. It will just be called Sonic, apparently. And that's just based on a photograph of a document that was about a filming location. And I wish I looked it up, but it just said Sonic on top of the with a logo, and Sonic's silhouette is kind of chipped away out of the C to make the C shape. So the logo looks to be done, and it looks like it's just going to be called Sonic.
Do you think this is going to be a good movie?
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
I'm not
Come on,
one bit out
Jim
of.
Carrey as Robotnik.
Oh no,
He's
no.
gonna nail it.
I can't picture a universe where this movie is a success. I'm so sorry.
My issue is that it's going to be combined CGI and real world. I don't know about that. That's the only problem I have with it.
Yeah.
The problem with video game movies, in my opinion, is that they never focus on making a good movie.
Yep.
And that's what
I get
should
you.
come first.
There are only. I still hold to the fact that there are only 2 good video game movies, and that is Wreck-It Ralph and Jumanji, the second one.
No.
Oh, interesting.
What about Mortal Kombat?
Annihilation, come on.
The
Absolutely.
original Mortal Kombat movie.
I think what am I thinking of? I was going to have an answer to that. Have you not seen the second? I suppose it is the second movie, but I guess not, because it's based on the second game in the series, so it's not really a sequel. Anyway,
Annihilation.
Street Fighter 2, the animated movie.
Oh, that was awesome.
Ryu.
Probably
The
best
fight in
one.
the end, man. Oh, when I remember when I was first watching that. Spoiler alert, I guess. When Bison and Ken and Ryu are fighting, and Bison's such a badass. He's like, "I'll fight you on your own level." He doesn't use his psycho power or anything like that. He goes toe to toe with them, and then Ken has I think Ryu gets knocked down. No, Ryu does the spinning kick, and then Ken's on the floor, grabs his leg, and then says, "Ryu, do it now!" And then out of nowhere, that's it, yeah. So Ken grabs Bison's leg, and then Ryu does the spinning kick, and then he kind of staggers Bison, and then out of nowhere, Ken just comes with a Shoryuken. I remember thinking, oh, that is so cool. It's hard to explain how awesome it is because it's done so well.
Yeah.
And I remember that's one of the scenes I just rewound and rewound and rewound. And yeah, it's really, really, really cool.
I don't mind
fight
if
between,
a video game movie. I don't mind if a video game movie gives up on the fan service in favor of just like making a solid movie.
But yeah,
I mean, that's the problem I had with the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children movie. It was just pure fan service. Like, it didn't really matter why they
that's
were
what
there
everyone
again.
wanted, surely.
Yeah.
Surely that's what everyone wanted to see Sephiroth go up against Cloud again. People only watch it for that most of the time, I think. But I bet some people actually fast forward to that fight. It's really over the top and stupid. Like, they're literally trying to hit each other with a building, pretty much, aren't they? In the end, it's a bit goofy. I'm all for this. I was talking about this on the last time we attempted a record. I was thinking, why not just take a game, and just convert it. I think I used the word convert very literally. I think Resident Evil 2 was the example I used, because I remember when I was a kid being blown away by the FMV sequences, and it was probably the first truly cinematic game that I played. So to take the story, because let's face it, these films are going to be for the players anyway most of the time. And if you've got like a series like Resident Evil. The Paul W.S. Anderson films are garbage as far as I'm concerned for the most part, but they really do make money. They are pulling in people. So that's just going to happen. So if they just did a literal, not so much scene for scene, but kind of like a script adaptation of the game, not quite word for word, but a scene for scene, I guess, and just did that, just gave it the Hollywood glossy, well-made, well-produced treatment, upgrading it, if you like.
Hmm.
I'd be all for that. You can't do that with Sonic games, obviously, because there's not much storyline to be had, really. But
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so let's plow on then, because we've got a lot of news to go through. The Atari VCS has had a spec change, and the RAM has been expanded from 4 gigabytes to 8 gigabytes. And I don't think this is in relation to it, but could be because the total funding for their project has passed the 3 million mark.
8 gigabytes for what? We still don't know what the console itself does.
Well, as far as I know, it's going to be Linux based. That's about it.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Why Linux? What?
Well, that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's confirmed, but I think it's going to be Linux based, and I don't know if they're just trying to beef up the numbers to make it look more impressive, or to put it on par with the PS4 and the Xbox One, to make it sound as powerful, or that it can actually. Because let's face it, it's not gonna challenge the PS4 or the Xbox One.
But I don't understand.
Atari system to be powerful.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, and they haven't talked about it at all yet. I mean, who cares if it has 8 gigabytes if it's a Walmart kiosk? We don't. I mean, I'm just saying, that's all. For all we know, we still don't know what it is. I don't understand what Atari's planning here. What kind of marketing scheme that they're going for, but it's weird.
Yeah, basically, I don't know if there's any news in that yet until we actually know what it is.
Yeah,
we'll keep tabs on it.
Yeah,
we'll definitely keep tabs on it. I mean, I'm interested in it as a project, but not a product.
I'm interested. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by it in a way, because I want to see how terribly hard this is going to bomb, or how surprisingly well it's going to do. I kind of feel like it's going to go either way.
I can agree with that.
I don't think it's going to be a lukewarm thing. I think it's going to either completely crash, or it's going to do surprisingly well.
Okay.
So Sega Ages, who basically repackage and resell classic Sega games for the most part, have announced the two titles that they will be launching for the Nintendo Switch in August. So these will be, of course, available to buy in August, and that is kind of an odd selection, I suppose. It's the inevitable Sonic the Hedgehog, the first one, and Thunder Force 4, which is really cool, horizontal shooter. But I think it's perfect for a Switch because of that widescreen. So a vertical shooter, especially one like is it Gradius 3?
Right.
With the dual, they had the ones with the big triple screens. Have you seen those immense arcade machines they made? Where was it Gradius? I think it was Gradius. Where they had you had the original Gradius. I'm pretty sure that was single screen. Then you had, from there on, they kind of went nuts with it, and they had arcade machines which had 1, 2, and I think even 3 screens. So it was ultra wide screen essentially, and it would be a horizontal shooter. So you'd be able to see enemies from like your right side, and you'd have your ship on the left, and you could still maneuver your ship all the way up to the right. So the play space was triple that of a regular horizontal shooter. So so I think that's good for the Switch.
I don't know if it's really worth it for a lot of people. I can't speak for everyone, but there are so many other ways to play these games already.
Well, did you, real quick before we go into the details, did you mention the other 3 games that are in the collection as well? The Alex Kidd in Miracle World. It's also going to come with Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Phantasy Star, and Game Ground. I don't know if you mentioned that, David, but.
The first 2 will be Sonic the Hedgehog, and Thunder Force 4, and then later on, I'm not sure when exactly, they'll release another set of 3, which is Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Phantasy Star, and Game Ground. Game Ground's probably the more obscure one, definitely. And from my recollection, it is a RTS team, 2-player RTS. I think. I can't remember. I vaguely remember a red team and a blue team.
You would no, it doesn't have that, but like, you would think it would be obscure, but since in the past 20 years, Game Ground has been released on so many other Sega collections There's like a Sega collection for PS4. There's a Sega collection for PS3. Sega collection for PS2. All the different generations. They all have Sega Genesis collections in them, and they all have Game Ground in it.
Can I just point out how brilliant a name Sega Ages is? Because you can spell it the same forward and backwards. Yeah, it's a palindrome. Yeah, you can spell it the same forwards and backwards, and
it's really cool.
Yeah, I love it.
I can just imagine them being in the boardroom and they're thinking that, and they were just old. That one of them just stands up really slowly, going, "Guys, I've got it." You know. What is Sega backwards? Oh my God, it's Ages. You know.
I love it so much.
Still got loads to go through here, so let's plow on then. So, Jordan Vogt Roberts is, for those who don't know, is the director of Kong Skull Island. If that's been made and done yet, I have no idea. As good is out, is it? I don't know. No, yeah, apparently he's the current director of the Metal Gear movie. I had no idea. But I think people are just so. I think some people are so expecting that film to never actually happen that they've just kind of forgotten about it, I guess.
I was not expecting it to happen.
I was literally listening to a podcast about 30 minutes ago, and it's still a big maybe, the Metal Gear movie. It's not fully finalized or anything yet, but if it is, then he's wanting to direct it.
Yeah. Okay, so he's not necessarily...
It has a chance to be good if they go beyond just the surface level of what the plot is, because Metal Gear has always been good because of what it is kind of, not only just like what happens, but like what everything kind of represents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, to be honest with you, I think Metal Gear would work better as a TV series, because it's got to the point now where that it's such a big universe. There's so much lore and history. I mean, you know, you got a chronology that goes back as far as I think 1964, is it, or something like that, up until the modern time.
Well, it's kind of a starting point anyway. We're kind of
that era.
But I think it would work better as like a good old Netflix series or something like that. So what he wants to do, like that, but longer. I was thinking about that earlier. Why is it 4 episodes? Why not just bundle it together? I worked out it's an hour and 34 minutes for all 4 episodes. So why not just make it like an OVA kind of thing and just make it a film?
If I had to guess, it was probably so that people could get a taste of it and to see if it worked. And if it didn't work, then then that's all she wrote. But
it's kind of like what they did with Walking Dead, where they started with, I think, was it 8 episodes for the first season, and then the second season had like 16, and then the next one after that had 22 or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was independently funded, wasn't it? Like, I mean, they didn't have the money to make more than 6 episodes at first.
You guys stop talking about Castlevania. I can't. I haven't watched it. I can't talk about it.
There's no plot.
Well, so to continue on the story then, so Jordan Vogt Roberts wants to make a Metroid movie, and he wants to. I like where he wants to go with it as well, because
Me too. Yeah.
The games are focusing on Samus Aran. She's usually underpowered at one point and then slowly regains her powers and her abilities rather, and in some cases even upgrades her suit. So to see that would go really well as a plot line in a film. She could land on a planet, being chased by space powers. Could be underpowered. She could be then start as like zero suit Samus, and we'll get a quick gear back. So it would really work as a survival movie, I think. Kind of like the last one of Alien.
The best comparison I heard made was someone calling it like the last half of Alien, like the 1970s movie.
That's literally what I just said. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. The last 10 minutes of that.
They were inspired by Alien, but honestly, like I think that a good a good way to make it work, because like video game movies hardly ever work. A good way to make a Metroid video game movie work would be make it kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen Gravity.
Yeah, I like that movie.
But like it's all about one woman in space, and like you don't need very many characters, because Samus's whole thing is that she's all by herself all the time.
That is a really good comparison. I like that idea a lot, because Gravity, in my opinion, was it really did nail that kind of solo aspect, because it really does only follow one woman throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah.
So if they could nail it in that sense, except on like more of a, instead of a space setting, more of a desolate planet setting, I agree with you there. The Gravity would be a good template for that movie, I think.
Yeah, and then take on like Ridley and the Space Pirates, like.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Ridley, if he played Ridley like he played Kong in Kong Skull Island, I mean, that movie is essentially a series of boss fights.
Yeah.
So I think that would work well. He'd be the right director for that.
Oh
Hey,
yeah, wait.
Actually,
No, totally. If it was like a series of boss fights, just like that would be so cool.
Oh yeah.
Or even make it kind of like an origin story where she like just based on the first game, where everything is new. This isn't an experienced Samus. This is someone who's like fresh to a role.
Like kind of.
Ridley the first time. I'm not familiar with the chronology, but I would say so. If that is chronologically the first, where she's introduced to the suit and first fights whatever the Metroids and so on. I would like an origin story. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be neat.
Yeah.
Or half origin, half adventure or survival or whatever. Because she could get into grips with her abilities as well. Although I would be interested to see if they would actually even try to make Samus turn into a ball in the film. Because
why
that's
not?
physically impossible. But I would love to see them attempt to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
moving on then, because again we still got
Yeah,
to go through.
given
I've
how much-
I've way too much news here.
Yeah, given how much time we have left, should we move on to user mail, or it's up
It's
to
not a
you?
bad idea.
Yeah, okay. Questions. Right. So we'll just dive straight to the questions. So this first one actually comes from myself. In fact, they all come from me, to be honest with you guys. What classic video game would you think makes an ideal game for the Nintendo Switch?
Let me think about this for
Sorry,
just
I'll
a, let me think about this for just a nanosecond. All of them.
Yeah.
Every single one. Every game ever created
Yeah, I suppose.
that's not a first-person shooter, because first-person shooters should be played with mouse and keyboard. But aside from that, every single other game that has ever been created should be on the Nintendo Switch, because it makes it a better experience.
We don't need any other answer than that.
I think we can move on.
What's the palindrome for Nintendo? It could be Nintendo.
Old Netnet.
Oddnitten. It's not as cool as my answer was Marble Madness, by the way.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And my
because of
answer
the,
was Air Fortress.
I think it's not a classic video game. I think it's basically classic at this point, but I think Spelunky would be a really good fit for Switch. It's a decade old at this point, so.
Yeah. Anything that's I don't know why I wrote classic, to be honest with you. I don't think that's really relevant.
Okay.
But it was more of a question related to Sega ages, of course. But then again, not so super classic games would. There are some relatively modern games that I think would be well ported to the Switch, well, I bet.
For sure.
But my answer is Marble Madness, just because of the tilt motion and stuff like that, and
Sure.
the controller, just the shape of the thing. This next one I really like, because the video game music is something that I'm really into, and
Me too.
there are so many games that I know of that sometimes I load them up and I just sit there and listen to the music for a bit before I play. What is your favorite piece of video game menu music?
You want to take this one, Mike?
So this can be pause
Sure.
music or initial menu music.
When you said that, or when you sent the question to me, the first thing that popped in my mind was well, not only Battletoads, the pause menu, but also Donkey Kong 64's pause menu.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like do 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 do. And that's it. It's just very funky.
Yeah. My answer is one that it's one that I mentioned a lot, and I have not the music, the game. It's one game that I mention a lot, and I seem to have this obsession with it. It keeps coming up in conversations about video games. I don't know how I keep doing it. When it comes to art style, gameplay, whether it's one of the best top 25 platformers in the world or ever created, or video game music, it always crops up because I think it's one of the most criminally overlooked games. It's a platformer for the Super NES called Plock, and the music throughout, really, it's by Tim and Jeff Fallon, who are prolific in the video game world as far as video game music. They made some of the most awesome BGM out there, in my opinion. I would love to do an episode on their music alone, but the actual initial menu music is both fun, but it's also really, really charming, because, and that's how I characterize Plock. It's just a charming, adorable game.
You should edit in the music for this part right here.
Oh, definitely, I will most certainly be putting in the music. So,
Yeah, for sure.
so it's when the game boots up, it starts with a bit of a bluegrass harmonica tune, but it's so upbeat and bouncy. It's really fun. Not only
Really?
that, the lead character Plock, and you won't believe the music actually is coming from Super NES, because it really sounds like a real harmonica. It just sounds like it's been sampled. It's either way, it just sounds like you're listening to regular audio, like someone actually playing a harmonica. It doesn't sound like it's coming from the Super NES. Anyway, when it loads up, the music starts, and not only are you getting this music, but also Plock himself, who is the hero of the game, is actually playing harmonica on screen. So it's instantly puts a smile on your face, and it's instantly charming, and it's just and throughout the game as well, the music is great.
Personally, I think
Who has
it's
an answer?
for me.
Yeah.
I think it's Super Mario 64. The opening music for that, the kind of Hawaiian remix of the original Super Mario Bros. Theme song. You know the one I'm talking about. Whenever you open up the game and you get the stretcher on Mario's face, that's a pretty good opening theme for me.
That's weird.
I like that one.
Stretch Mario face is so weird.
I love the
Hello.
part. Say what?
Hello. You up?
Yeah, it's when you when he stretches face.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a really good menu theme in my opinion.
me, Mario. Hello.
I just had another one come to mind as well, just because it's something so dreamy and hypnotic about it, and I think it doesn't come from any particular game in the series, but that is the interlude. No, interlude. Yeah, is that what they call it? Interlude from Final Fantasy, which almost introduces nearly all Final Fantasy games.
And from which Final Fantasy you cut out there for just a minute?
Any Final Fantasy really. Final Fantasy VII is probably the one that I really sat and listened to properly. But even like the GBA versions of like Final Fantasy 4 and 5.
I know the one you're talking about.
Prelude. I know the one. Thank you. Yes.
The one with like
it's just like
the high pitched piano sounds, kind of. Or
yeah.
I love that one.
Is it arpeggio?
That's a fantastic one. I agree.
Yeah,
I love that because it's something so heartwarming and beautiful about it, and it really does almost bring a tear to the eye because it's so pretty. It's such a lovely tune.
That song is actually it fits really well at the end of Final Fantasy VI in particular. That's the song that plays after all the credits roll and it says the end, and it caps off that game so perfectly.
Yeah.
And I love that song a lot.
I have to recommend. You can take this out if you want to, but I have to recommend. On YouTube, there's this guy who makes like 15-minute long epic medleys of Final Fantasy music.
Oh,
and
awesome.
He made one for 6, and it ends with that.
That's awesome. I need to look
I
that
have
up.
to check that out. So this next question is always going to be fun.
Okay.
What is your most controversial video game related opinion?
Majora's Mask is better than Ocarina
Your
of Time.
hot take.
Fight me.
That's not controversial. Majora's Mask is better than Ocarina.
Oh,
It
well,
improved upon it.
I'm glad you
There's nothing wrong
agree.
with improving upon something that's already good.
I'm very much glad you agree, but it in a lot of people's minds, it's pretty controversial. Ocarina of Time is usually remembered as the better game for whatever dumb reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, this is actually a good question to ask on every episode.
It's like the ice arrows are completely useless in Ocarina of Time.
This I was just thinking, this is a really good question to ask every time we have someone new on the show, because it's just one of those. It's a good question to ask anybody. All right, you ready for my hot take?
Okay.
Here we go.
Because it genuinely is controversial. Mario games, they're just okay. They're just good. They're not mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's pretty dang controversial, and I will fight you to the death on that
That's
one.
controversial.
I can't
kinda
think
set
of a
the
Mario
standard.
game where I sat and played it and thought, this is amazing. I've never thought that. I just thought, well, this is fun. This is fun. I can probably play, pass a few hours playing this. There are so many different games that... Go on.
Play Super Mario Odyssey, and that you will completely be floored.
I've not played
Can I
Odyssey,
ask you a question, David?
nor played Sunshine. Go on.
Well, David, when you were a kid, did you rent a lot of platformers for the NES or Super Nintendo at all?
No, when I was a kid, I used a microcomputer.
Yeah, because when I did, and when you rent a lot of platformers, you gain an appreciation of Super Mario, because the controls on that game are just so tight. And then, like, there are so many other bad platformers where, like, the controls are too floaty, or too stiff, or just, like, it's... I think
Like
people
the
should
OG Mario
appreciate
Brothers.
how hard it is to make a good platformer. And the fact that,
Oh,
like,
I suppose, yeah, technically it's certainly an achievement, definitely. But I've never, I just think it's just one of those it's classically overhyped series. I think that's what it is. I think I was quite late to Mario, so I didn't really grow up with him. I could be slightly biased here and say that I actually grew up with Sonic. And I wouldn't even say I grew up with Sonic. I was late coming to Sonic as well. And that would be my alternative version of the hot take, is that I believe Sonic games are better than Mario.
okay, that's also...
It sounds like I'm trolling. Sounds like I'm trolling. I know, because I always get that paused reaction when I tell people that. I think, like, I actually Sonic 2 is better than almost all Mario games, if not all of them. I really do.
That's
I
your
just think it's
intended-
I can't even quite articulate why I think this, but if I was sitting here right now and in front of me or in my hands I had Sonic 2 in my right hand and I had Super Mario Bros. 3 in my left, I would always go to Sonic 2.
Okay.
There's something so much more appealing about Sonic to me. Not because I grew up. I didn't even grow up with Sonic. I was quite late to that era of games. Anyway, like I said, I played with a microcomputer right up until the point where I was about 13. So, Sonic and Mario generally, came to me quite late. I knew of them, but I didn't really, play them that much, or at all. But
as I always say,
I find Sonic generally more appealing musically as well. Now that I feel like people will agree.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic music is better than Mario music.
okay, I'll agree with that. But in terms of
Wouldn't
the
go that far.
quality of the gameplay, as I always say,
Maybe I'm
let's-
just a fanboy. Maybe I'm just a Nintendo.
I just think Sonic generally is a game series that is a bit more, where music is a bit more of a factor. I think.
as I always say,
Right now I can't even think outside of the typical. Is it Takashi Tezuka? I can't remember who composed it, but outside of the regular Mario theme, the one that everybody knows. Outside of that, I really can't think of anything else. Maybe the Wario's Castle in Super Mario Land 2. I can hear the music in that, but I cannot hear anything outside of the sort of the regular Mario tune. You know,
well,
you
I
guys
don't
too
know.
stunned and silent. I don't know if I'm trying
Well,
Hey, as I always
issues or whether you're actually genuinely stunned.
Ethan just went on about how great the menu music of Mario 64 was, and here you are trashing his representation.
Hey, David, as I always say,
Out of the Sonic series, I really think nothing beats Oil Ocean Zone. It's so fun.
David, as I always say,
It's so funky.
David, as I always say, you are absolutely entitled to your incredibly wrong opinion. Actually, I have a question. I wonder if that might be because
Go for it.
I know that Nintendo has never, at least in like the NES era, they never had as much of an influence in the UK area as they did over here in America.
Possibly.
You think that might have something to do with it?
Really, yes, because the Mega Drive predates the Super NES by quite a number of years, and the NES didn't. I don't think it was really got a foothold. I think what happened was the microcomputers were the thing for a while,
Right.
and then the NES I think was soft launch. I could be wrong. And then the Mega Drive came along, and the Super NES, and that was it. Yeah, sorry, the NES was around. But when the Mega Drive came out, it was leaps and bounds ahead of the NES, technically speaking, and therefore it grabbed everyone's attention. And then it was a good number of years then before the Super NES arrived.
I see. Gotcha.
I think it was 1990. I think was when the Mega Drive reached the UK shores, and the Super NES I want to say was 1992. 91 perhaps, but either way, regardless, the Mega Drive already had a foothold in the UK before Nintendo.
I knew it. You're biased. I'm biased. We're human. Congratulations, everyone.
Biased.
No.
Everybody's biased.
Remember, I was for the most part, for more or less my entire life, I've always been 1 or 2 generations behind.
Right.
So even when the Mega Drive was out, I was still playing my microcomputer. So for me, I mentioned him earlier. I'm not sure I mentioned it. Yeah, I did. I mentioned Dizzy, and a game called Quick Snacks. I was playing that. I was playing a game series called Roland, which doesn't sound very exciting. It's quite a strange series actually because it doesn't seem to have a theme. It's just Roland in the caves, Roland on the ropes, and character designs and level designs and all that sort of stuff were always completely different. So yeah, really strange game series. But that was what I was playing.
Huh, okay.
I would see games like consoles like the Mega Drive and the Super NES, but they would always be. I would always look at them as like I can't afford them, or my mother can't afford them, because we weren't very rich. So I had my microcomputer for a very long time until I basically could afford to buy the console myself. But by the time that happened, the PS2 was around. And of course, I did get a Mega Drive and Super NES eventually, but they were hand-me-downs. When the PS1 came out, one of my best mates at the time said, "Do you want my Mega Drive? Do you want my Master System? Do you want my Super NES?" So they were just sort of given to me, but about probably 5-6 years too late. So yeah, PS1. I got my Mega Drive and Super NES about the time the PS1 was a thing.
Well, that's a much different story than I have. Hey, by the way, David, I just thought I'd let you know I'm gonna have to head out in about 5 minutes or so. So.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Well,
So you want to lightning round anything?
Yeah, let's lightning round it. So okay, which Pokemon would you love to keep as the household pet?
Anything that wouldn't kill me. So I'd have to say Clefairy.
It's domesticated. It's pre-domesticated.
Snorlax. I don't even care if it would sit on me or take up all my house room or crush my house. I don't care. I want a Snorlax.
It would eat you out of house and home.
Yes, it would. I don't even care. I will keep a Snorlax.
We stink up the place as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't care. I want Snorlax too much.
Not a very hygienic creature.
I would love a Growlithe, but I mean, it would set my house on fire.
Snorlax.
I would love a Nidoran. I would love a Nidoran, but it would poison me.
Right.
Here's my choice. Just because it's I think it's my favorite looking Pokemon in terms of how it appears. It's my favorite Pokemon. I'm not really a Pokemon fan or a huge Pokemon fan. I've played a few games, but I would never call myself like a hardcore Pokemon fan. But out of all the Pokemon I've seen, this is one that I feel like, yeah, that's a really cool looking creature. Umbreon.
Awesome.
Umbreon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Umbreon, I think it was like an inverted Pikachu.
Pikachu would electrocute me.
Yeah, but Umbreon's electric base as well, isn't it? Is it? Or is it something
Umbreon
else?
is Dark type Eevee, isn't it?
I can't.
If I had to
yeah,
choose
I'm not sure.
if I had to choose between one of the Eevees, I would probably go with Vaporeon, because between dark matter, fire, lightning, or water, I think I'm gonna pick water because it sounds like the least dangerous. So.
Yeah, I would actually just choose the base Eevee. I would just choose like Eevee because Eevee is cute and cuddly and is not going to kill me.
How does
That works.
Waylord fight? How does
How does
Waylord
Waylord
fight?
fight?
Because it's a war-based creature. It's gigantic, and so how does it fight? Do they sort of balance out and say like, oh, jump in the water, Pikachu, because Waylord can't get out there, otherwise he'll suffocate. So let's make it fair, and jump in the water. You probably electrocute the water actually, but still, how does Waylord fight if it's basically a giant whale, which I assume cannot live outside of the ocean?
I
don't know.
I honestly have no idea.
So, so how does like a creature like say Umbreon fight Waylord if Waylord is a deep sea, not fish? I want to say fish, but I know I'm going to get accosted for that.
Mammal.
Because people be like, it's not a fish, it's a mammal. It's a fish. Alright? It's a giant fish. Alright, so let's just plow on them. I'll fly through all the new stuff, because honestly, I not new stuff, the history stuff, because, in all honesty, there's not a huge amount here. The first one, I'm guessing, doesn't really excite much people. I'm just interested in the game myself. So 15 years ago this week, XS Games publishes third-person adventure game Siberia, developed by Microids, or it's actually Mike Waz, I think they're a French company, whose other notable releases include survival horror game Obscure. Siberia is a traditional puzzle-solving adventure game, very much like in the style of Resident Evil.
Not really.
Only minus the horror. The player takes on the role of Kate Walker, a lawyer who has been entrusted by a toy company to negotiate the takeover of a factory that manufactures toys and automatons. And with this technology considered old hat in the modern climate, and with no chance of it catching up, the owner of the factory, Anna Vorberg, has decided to sell up. But obviously, things don't quite go to plan. Upon arrival at the location of the factory, Kate discovers that Miss Vorberg has died and is about to be buried, so leaving the factory to an heir, which is her brother Hans. However, Hans had left the local valley many years ago and is believed to be deceased. But a letter penned by Miss Vorberg before her death suggests that Hans is actually alive, and so then it falls upon Kate to track him down to deal with the family affair. So it doesn't really it sounds a bit boring, frankly, but it's a puzzle adventure game, and it's one that I've always wanted to get. It just interests me. I wouldn't mind getting it.
I don't know.
Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire was released this week 15 years ago also. These are particularly, in my opinion, important Pokemon games just because they introduced some interesting elements to the series. So this was a dual, co-creation by Creatures Inc. and Game Freak, and Ruby and Sapphire, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, take place in a new location, Hoenn, and bump the Pokédex, adding 135 new Pokemon, over 100 new moves, and 17 new items. Ruby and Sapphire introduced new elements to the series, such as abilities and special attributes, which are special attributes given to the Pokemon that can aid them in battle, basically buffs and debuffs, aren't they, really? I think. Many abilities act as a power-up, increasing a move or stat. Others introduce a third-party effect like weather conditions. Some abilities can even hinder a Pokemon battle. Each Pokemon can have only one ability, however, some have the option of 2 different abilities at the same time. The choice is random, and each ability is equally likely. There are 308 single ability Pokemon and 355 dual ability Pokemon. The series also, or these two games rather, also introduce, or this generation rather, introduced natures, personality traits that affect a Pokemon's stats, specifically increasing one and decreasing another by 10%. These include natures such as Adamant, which increases attack and decreases special attack, Timid, which increases speed but lowers attack, and my personal favorite, Sassy, which increases a Pokemon's special defense stat while decreasing its speed stat. And I assume the defense stat is envisioned as some sort of like snippy comment, like give the hand and all that. And furthermore, our Ruby and Sapphire introduced double battles, which introduced attacks that can damage both Pokemon in battle. Is that right? Do I have that right?
And then they ran that idea into the ground by doing it over and over again.
That's kind of why I've not been all that interested in the series. I feel like it has been
In
like
that
a
one
rehash after
generation.
rehash. You guys ever played a game called Radiant Silvergun?
Heard of it?
No.
awesome, gorgeous vertical shooter created by Sega and published for the Sega Saturn, and it's actually quite hard to find. You'll be lucky to find a copy for less than $200. But I have played the arcade version, and it is a really, really, really good vertical shooter, gorgeous looking as well. And that was published 20 years ago. And it was developed by Treasure, and Treasure for me, I feel, are kind of a forgotten, legendary developer. They created Gunstar Heroes, Silver Mirage, one really overlooked adventure game called what's it called? I want to say Landstalker, but it's not Landstalker. It's Light Crusader, which is a really, really cool game. There we go, guys. I did have some questions, but I'll be honest with you, I think we're running out of time.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah, I think so.
So that was not our first attempt to try to keep it under wraps, but our video games, man, they're just so... I could talk for days about video games.
We know that firsthand.
We'll try. Seriously, guys. Next time, just stop me, man. If I'm waffling, just tell me to shut up.
No, you're fine.
Literally, actually, that'd be funny. That would be hilarious. Just tell me to say, Dave, shut up and move on.
Just shut up.
The truth is, Dave, that you put so much care and love into video games.
Yeah.
That everything you do is quality. It's just that there might be
a little too much. Yeah, a little too much of it. But that's a good thing.
Yeah. So let's run up the show then. Next time we'll do a proper show. We'll get through the news quicker. We'll have a lot more history to talk about, and also the quiz question element as well. So we can listeners follow you guys.
We're gonna follow. You all can follow me at LinkaChooChoo on Twitter. It's a fun name. I like
adorable.
it. I know it's adorable. That's LINKACHUCHU. I mostly retweet a bunch of stuff about how Super Smash Brothers is the greatest game ever made, and Sakurai needs a break from... Very controversial. But anyway, also look forward to our list of the greatest 25 greatest 2D platformers ever made coming out hopefully this Sunday. So look forward to that up on the site.
And I'm just going to jump in there. On Sunday, we'll have our regular episode, because this one's actually quite delayed. It was meant to be last Sunday, but we couldn't do it. So we will be recording another episode Sunday. Hopefully you guys will be available for that, which will be quite timely, because it should be just after, I assume, the release, I guess, or the publishing, rather, of that list of 25 platformers.
Okay.
So... I'm sure I'll have plenty to say.
Where can we find you, Mike?
Well, you can find me, of course, at cultureofgaming.com. I write for you guys all the time, and I have my own little YouTube channel called Game Old, and
nice.
I have opinion pieces there, and little video essays, if that floats your boat.
Sweet. I'll check that out myself. So if you want to follow myself, you can follow me on Twitter, although I'm not that active on Twitter. If anything, I'll be more active on the Retro Rumble Twitter, which is at Retro Rumble Pod. Once we get fully going with the show, I'll be posting reminders of when the show goes live and stuff on Twitter. Also, Instagram is probably the best place to follow myself, which is davey.shiro. That's davey.shiro. I post most of my, almost all really, of my retro video game collecting adventures there as well, which I'll also post on the Retro Rumble Pod's Instagram as well. Oops, sorry, I lost my notes here. Bear with me, one sec. Yeah, do follow me on that. And also the Retro Rumble's Instagram is... onto my phone. Sorry guys, I'm looking at my phone here. Oh my god. Sorry guys, I've lost my place. One sec.
Well, you can post the Retro Rumble Instagram.
Yeah, I'll post it in the show notes and that. Yeah, absolutely. Never mind. There we go. I'll post links to everything. So there we go, guys. So thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll join us for our next episode on Sunday. I'll post reminders on our Facebook page as well. Retro Rumble Pod is also on Facebook. Search Retro Rumble Pod. And once again, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Next time.